Bill Riley Show halfway home on a Thursday. My guy, our Jazz and NBA insider back east. Probably seeing family and friends while he's back there, covering a little NBA basketball as well. Tony Jones with us here from The Athletic here on the Bill Riley Show on ESPN 700. Tone, how are you?
I just want to let you know that I have delayed a lunch date with 3 of my favorite cousins to be with you today.
Well, you could have just put them on speakerphone. I bet they're more entertaining than you are.
Nah, they would have embarrassed me. They would have been like, they would have been like, yo, you had Tony on. It would have just been, no. I'll see you afterwards.
All right. Well, I won't keep you long, I promise. Lunch is calling.
No, we're good, man. Do it. We got all the time in the world.
So are you still in New York or are you in Boston?
No, I'm in New York today, and then I'm just going to go up to Boston tomorrow, take the train up.
All right, before we start talking some NBA stuff, I got to get a couple of things out of the way. Hoyas are 15-15. Their net ranking is 62. How deep a run in the Big East tournament are they going to have to make?
I think we're going to have to win it.
Okay.
That's just not going to be possible with our guys.
All right.
Listen, when we talked at the time, there was hope.
Oh, I know. I know because this is very fluid. College basketball in February and early March is a fluid situation. I'm not throwing shade. I know you were hopeful 2 weeks ago when we talked, or 3 weeks ago about the Hoyas, and I just didn't know if you still were holding out hope or if it's NIT top seed for the Hoyas.
NIT. Like, listen, this will put us at 15-16. And that means that we'd have to win 3 games.
Yeah, you'd probably have to get to the Big East championship game, probably.
To even get into the NIT.
Yeah.
Much less the NCAA. So the season's over.
Okay.
We're gonna lose to Villanova. And we're going to lose our first round game, and then the season's going to be done. We're going to have 5 guys. Why even play them anymore?
All right. Well, I'm just checking in. I'm just checking. The Utes are kind of in that same boat. They're going to have to win the thing, and they're going to have to win 4 and win the thing in Vegas to get there. So they're in the same boat as your Hoyas. Second thing, the second order of business. I know you're very protective of your corners. You're a guy that doesn't like other people in coming in on the corners. Did you grant permission for Chris Camrani to come in on your corners and write a little jazz piece?
Of course I did.
Okay,
and
good.
He did a tremendous job.
Okay, good. Well, he just teased it. He wouldn't tell us who it was on or what it was about, but he said –
I read it.
Okay, good.
So it's a really good story.
I've often said there are not many better storytellers in this region than Chris Camrani, and which is why the Athletic really hired him. So
they're really on. I might have to tell him never to do that again because I don't want to look bad.
So okay, good. I just wanted. He said he was on with us a minute ago. This is officially the Athletic Hour on the Bill Riley Show, but he said that he's still writing some spring football, but he wrote a jazz piece for the Athletic too. So
it's so worth it. So when it comes out, I believe it's coming out Friday from what my sources are telling me. So when it comes out, read it. Definitely.
All right, Tony Jones with us from New York today. He'll be in Boston with the Jazz tomorrow. I said this off the top of the show. The game was early. I was still doing a bunch of different things. I didn't watch a second of the Jazz game last night. I just didn't. I have no interest in seeing the Knicks. They did what they should have done. They beat a bad team. I saw what you wrote. It was a good win. They needed to get it, did what they should do, but now the competition's going to get a little bit tougher. But I did watch, however, the Pelicans and the Mavs, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Just give me the highlights. What did you like? What wasn't so good about last night for the Jazz?
Well, here's the thing: the Jazz right now, like the players themselves. I mean, they're not buying stock into any of these 3 wins. The 3 wins are nice to have. Obviously, they all count. So, the Jazz are now 39-22, but realistically, the Jazz themselves don't know whether or not, they're actually playing better until they start playing the better teams, and then they start beating the better teams. and they're going to have plenty of chances for that. They got the Boston Celtics tomorrow night in Boston. They come home on Monday and face the Toronto Raptors. Then they go to Oklahoma City for what's looking to be a really big game. Then they have the Grizzlies and the Pelicans, and then they have 2 with the Lakers, and they have 2 with the Spurs. You get the drift. The schedule's about to turn difficult again for the Jazz. So they did what they were supposed to do. They got these 3 wins. Even if they lose to Boston tomorrow night, they have a chance to finish the road trip 4-1, or they have the chance road trip 3-1 with the win over Detroit. Realistically, they want to see tangible proof in beating teams with above 500 records, and these past 3 games just aren't going to offer that tangible proof.
So tomorrow night against Boston, the last time the Jazz lost were to the Celtics. They got beat 114-103 about a week and a half ago. Tomorrow night provides that test the Jazz are looking for. So in that game, what do you want to see, Tony, that you didn't see prior to these 3 wins against lesser teams? What's got to be better against a team like Boston on the road?
Well, Boston's another team that plays that switches everything defensively, and the Jazz have not played very well against primarily switching defenses all season. So I want to see the Jazz play better against a team that switches almost everything. I want to see if the improvement that we've seen out of Mike Conley in the last 3 games, if it translates to a good opponent. The biggest casualty of the Jazz playing the Boston Celtics and the Houston Rockets of the world is Bojan Bogdanovic, because he's not a one-on-one guy. He relies on a system to kind of get him his looks. I want to see him play better and get more looks and be more offensively involved as well. So there's a lot of things I want to see. And we haven't even talked about the defense, and I don't think the defense has been that much improved over the last 3 games. I just think that, the Jazz have played teams that are going to eventually miss shots. So I think that the defense still has a ways to go. I think that, the Jazz are going to have to prove themselves against a team that switches a lot of things. And I want to see Conley and Bogdanovic continue their improvement over the last 3 games.
They'll see Jason Tatum tomorrow night, who's really having a nice year. Terrific, having a nice year, taking off from being great to being superstar level type in the NBA, getting close to that. So I told you because the game was so early, and then I saw the results. I didn't really bother. I saw the highlights, and that was it of the Jazz game. But I did sit down and watch the Mavericks and the Pelicans last night, which was thoroughly entertaining. I watched bits and pieces of the first half, watched the entire second half. I have no stake in that game, but it was a fun game to watch. And it's got 2 guys that could become transcendent players that are young players. It's got Luka, it's got Zion. And they went back and forth. And then those guys each have second bananas. And I think you and I talked about it. Zion's got Brandon Ingram, who may not be that superstar, but he could have that possibility if he accepts the role of being that great second banana. And, obviously Luka's got Porzingis, who's there, and Dallas still needs to add some pieces around. But it was a fun game to watch. So it kind of got me thinking last night. If you were buying stock, Tony, in a player under 25, which player in the NBA under 25 are you buying stock in? My poll question today, I've got Zion, I've got Luka, I've got Tatum, and then I've got other, because Twitter only gives you 4 options. So I went Zion, Luka, Tatum, other. Trey obviously is in that discussion perhaps as well. But if you're looking at who's there under 25, Giannis is 25, so he doesn't count. So if you're going under 25, who are you buying stock in long term?
It's got to be Luka right now, and the reason it's got to be Luka is this: Zion Williamson is a part of the system in New Orleans. Jason Tatum, for how good he is a part of the system in Boston. Luka Doncic is the system. in Dallas, and there's a difference with that distinction. You know, he's the only guy right now that teams are that whole franchise is built around him, and you know, I think that Zion and Tatum, in some ways, their franchises are built around those guys. Maybe even a lot of ways in Zion, but you know, everything is built around Luka, and what Luka did last night down the stretch, I mean, it was just ridiculous. I mean, he had 9 points in the clutch. He had a 30-point triple-double. He completely took over that game when it counted, especially in the overtime. You know, he made Drew Holiday, of all people, who's one of the 3 or 4 best perimeter defenders in the league. He made Drew Holiday look silly off the dribble with a couple of crossovers. I mean, Luka is, you know, I told you this early in the season. I mean, you know, Dallas is going to win a championship with that guy. And he's just a guy who's so offensively advanced, and he affects the game in so many ways. Even if he doesn't defend well, he's just right now he's got to be the guy, the best guy in the league under 23. And I think that he's a guy who's on track to be an absolute all-timer once he's finished with his career.
I think both New Orleans and Dallas in the next 3 to 5 years could contend for a championship.
Yeah, I think New Orleans is going to have to change his coach, though.
You don't like Alvin?
I like him. I like him fine. I don't think he's great. I don't think, you know, nobody wins a championship without defending. I mean, we could talk about offense. You know, just nobody wins a championship without defending. And the only team that's gotten close to the championship without defending in the last 15 to 20 years has been the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2017. You know, when that team was like one of the worst defensive teams, or 2018, when that team was one of the worst defensive teams in the league. But, you know, LeBron still willed them to the championship round. Other than that, you don't sniff a championship without the ability to defend, and New Orleans just doesn't defend. They don't guard anybody. So until they start guarding, and then, you know, and that same thing goes with Dallas, until some of those guys start guarding, it's going to be hard to win at the highest level.
Yeah, but Rick Carlisle's been there, and he does actually teach a little bit of defense. So I would say of the two, I have more faith in Carlisle being able to get those guys to guard than I do Alvin.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously the 2011 team, Tyson Chandler was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Jason Kidd was still really good defensively. Sean Marion was great defensively. I mean, that team guarded. And you know, they made up for a lot of deficiencies with Dirk Nowitzki, with the guys that they had around them. So, you know, those that Carlisle has definitely coached teams who can guard. So, and I think he's still one of the top 5 coaches in the league. You know, and a lot of it has to do with your personnel. Milwaukee didn't become historically good until, you know, they got guys who got it.
Right.
You know, they took out Mirotic, they took out Ersan Ilyasova, they went and got, you know, Wesley Matthews, you know, Giannis became a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, and right now those guys are just as difficult on the defensive end of the floor as they are to guard on the offensive end of the floor. So, you know, you just don't win at the, you know, those Warrior teams. I mean, we talk about Steph and Clay and the Splash Brothers this, Splash Brothers that. Those teams were historically good defense.
Yeah, they were good.
You know, so you just don't win at the highest level without the ability to defend at a super high level. So, you know, when you look at New Orleans and you look at Dallas and you look at those young and up-and-coming teams, they have to guard. And one thing I'm disappointed in New Orleans is they don't guard. They have the guys who can guard. Like Lonzo's is a really good defender. Drew Holiday's a great defender. Derek Favors is a great defender. Brandon Ingram should be a great defender. Like, they have guys, they have the pieces in place to be a top 10 defensive team, and they just don't defend at all. So that's probably the one thing I'm disappointed in with the Pelicans.
Go have lunch with your cousins. Travel safe. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, my guy.
Thank you, man.